What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about 3 unguardable press releases that you guys can use to create some separation. So the first things first we're going to be talking about is just how you guys can use range to create separation. Then we're going to be touching on something quick that you guys can use, and then a release that you guys could use for a little bit more of a patient situation. So we're going to cover all the bases here on how you guys can get more separation when you're up against a press DB, a physical DB, and a DB who likes to stay patient. So I hope this video gives you guys some value. Hope you can learn a few new things, but also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you want over an hour and a half's worth of specific training content for wide receivers on the field to improve your route running and your press releases, check out that very first link in the description for our route running Bible. So what you get access to is our How to Improve Your Route Running in 10 Days training program, which is a 2-week-long on-field wide receiver training schedule with all the drills you need to do, broken down into sets and reps to improve your route running. And we include a 49-minute long video on 20 different press releases, when to use them, and drills to work on each one. Hope you guys could check that out. Very first link in the description for our route running Bible. Let's get started. So this first release here we're looking at is from Judy. So now the main thing that I want to talk about is just how he's able to utilize this range of this DB, right? So if I got to run a slant route, right? So I got to run a slant and I got this DB who's inside shade. So the main things that I want to understand is that this is the zone over in this direction where he has to make a decision, right? He could either shuffle with me, he could either come at me, but something has to happen, and what's going to happen is he's going to make a decision, right? So when Judy comes off here, he decides to go with this kind of patient, like hesitation, hop release, and you see all he's doing right here is gathering info on this DB. How is this DB going to play me? Is he going to jump to the outside? Is he going to be overly playing the fade? Is he going to stay disciplined and sit to the inside? How is he going to play this thing? And that's how we want to, anytime you guys are working a situation where you're attacking a DB, closing the distance, attacking his leverage, you guys always want to be gathering info. What is he trying to do? How is he trying to play this thing? And that's my main focus, right? So Judy does such a great job of understanding that he has the outside, right? The DB wants him to go to the outside because he's inside shade, he's inside leverage. So when I get to this spot right here, this is where I can make some damage, right? So you see how Judy, this DB is not choosing to get hands. He's not choosing to address him. He's sitting disciplined to the inside. He's focused on watching that number, watching that torso. So Judy decides to go with this crossover. So this is an unguardable release anytime you guys are using range. So it's not even necessarily just one release, just being able to use range off the line of scrimmage, operating in that zone to where this DB cannot get hands unless he addresses you. And if he doesn't get hands, he's going to have to shuffle and watch your hips. And then I could take care of him with this double up. And you see how much Judy's able to throw. His hips and his shoulders go with this fake. While he's throwing his hip to the outside, his toes stay forward with that weight on the inside arch. This is how we create explosion. When you guys could get to this spot and a DB stays disciplined and watches your hips, all you got to do is you got to get to this spot where I can sell. You get to that spot with your upper half to where your upper half commits to the move, because all we're trying to do is threaten him vertical. What a lot of guys will do is a lot of people will be like, oh, well, Judy's dancing. A lot of receivers, what they'll do is they'll dance behind the line of scrimmage. And all this DB is going to do is just shuffle with you and stay square. You still have to get to this spot, but you're behind the line of scrimmage and he's not. So he's going to have an advantage. But when you guys actually address him and attack him vertical and threaten him vertical by actually moving on this line, because there's always a chance Judy just gives this little skip and takes off. And that's what we're trying to sell. We're trying to sell that with my upper half. So make sure, fellas, anytime you guys are working a more patient release, a hesitant release where you're trying to set somebody up to the outside, operate in that range. You've got to make sure that you're in that range to get this DB to overcommit, to get him to sit on this fade, and then obviously I can create some separation from this spot. Let's watch it again full speed. There's a great example of how to use range and how to work a double up to get this DB to jump. Okay, so now, next clip we're going to be looking at here is mainly we're going to be talking about this split release. Okay, so what is a split release? So a split release is exactly how it sounds. You're just splitting your feet together. Now, this is a great route here by Sterling Shepard, but let's talk about the release, because normally when I've talked about this clip in the past, I've focused on the top of the route and not so much the release. So a split release is where you bring your back foot even with your front foot. You literally just split your feet in place. So that's what he does right here. So you see, anytime you work a split release, it's a great release because you could go out or you could go in. That's why I feel like if you do this correctly, it's an unguardable release. You cannot guard this release. And now, again, when I talk about press releases, all you should be concerned with as a wide receiver is getting off of the line and keeping timing with your quarterback. If you're focused on, oh, I'm going to break this guy's ankles and I'm going to get him to fall, and then I'm going to get up into the route, you're doing it wrong. The separation we get is at the top of the route. You get off a press, you keep the timing with your quarterback to put you in that position to make a play downfield with your press release. It's all about just keeping timing. Set the DB up, set a trap, get up into the route, and keep timing. That's the number one. That's the name of the game. So you see, when When he splits his feet here, you see how he's in a nice balanced position. So many people, when they go with this split release, they will pop their chest straight up in the air, right? So guys, you see it all the time in high school. They'll do this split release. They'll split. Their feet will get super narrow. Their chest pops up in the air. Then this DB is just going to choke you and knock you back about 3 yards. You want to get to this balanced position. You want to get to this position where your legs are in a balanced spot. If this DB were to get hands on Shepard right here, he wouldn't get completely knocked off of this thing. He's in a balanced spot, low center of gravity. So if this guy were to get hands, he can react. And so he's got a little bit more explosion, because when you could get to this spot, you're in a lower explosive position to where you could actually get some acceleration up into this route. So you see, he's pushing off of this outside leg. DB wants to stay outside shade and give him the inside. Fine, I'm going to split, get a split-second read on this guy, then push to the inside. You see how much he's able to push, right? He's pushing off of that outside leg to really generate that explosion, and that explosive release that he has, that sudden release, turns into energy, and that energy creates you, or it propels you into the top of the route, which then creates energy for you to accelerate out, okay? I know it's real technical right there, but the main thing is fellas, when you do this split release, you got to make sure your feet come to balance, your feet come even, and you're in an explosive spot to be able to create as much separation as possible from this guy. Let's watch this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Sterling Shepard, working a split, being sudden with his feet, then obviously just getting up into the route. You got to understand this, fellas. A lot of people think that press releases is all about hands. It's all about fighting the DB. It's all about swatting his arms. Your feet set up the hands. The way your feet get off the line, how sudden you are with your feet, that's what sets a trap for the DB. That's what will set up the hand technique that you guys can use, okay? So now, last release that we're going to talk about that I feel is an unguardable release if ran correctly is this diamond release, okay? So we're going to be looking at Jalen Waddle. Now, again, when you guys are a faster receiver off the line, this is a dangerous release for you guys to use. If you guys are faster, or you're maybe just faster than the DB, he is always going to be threatened vertical, right? But how am I actually going to sell the route? Because again, at this level, the level Waddle's playing at, I know he's a freak athlete, but everybody on that dang field is fast. Everybody's the best athlete from their college team, right? It's not even like that transition from high school to college where everybody's the fastest dude on their high school team. It's a transition from college to the NFL. And that's what they say, these guys say, is the hardest transition. So you got to understand that technique is what matters. To get you to that next level, to make that next jump, yeah, you might be a great athlete. Yeah, you might be a big player, but you got to make sure that you have the technique down to be able to create create separation, right? So now let's take a look at this route here. So he decides to go with this kind of diamond release. He gives a little hesitation release off the line, but this diamond release is ultimately what sets it up. So the most important part about any kind of release that you guys do is you got to be a salesman, and you got to threaten where? You got to threaten him vertical. If you don't threaten a DB vertical, he will not move, especially at the highest level of football. If you guys are doing all this crap behind the line of scrimmage, if you guys are doing a diamond release, and a diamond release, for those of you that don't know, is 3 steps to the outside on a 45-degree angle. But for those guys who do those like 3 choppy steps almost in place, that isn't going to get anybody, because that DB is going to stay square. He's been trained to look for that. We got to make him think fade. No matter what I do, whether I'm running a 3-step slant, whether I'm running a 5-yard hitch, or whether I'm running a 15 back to 12 comeback, it has got to look like a fade from point A to point B, right? So now, when Waddle gets off this thing, he gives this little hesitation move, gets that DB to sit to the inside. Now he's going to burst up on 3 steps. Now I want you to pay attention to how in stride he is on those 3 steps. You see how he's actually running, right? His eyes are to the outside. His shoulders and his hips are committed to the outside. That's what's going to get a DB to move. It's not going to be, oh, I'm just going to look over here. I'm just going to make this long, exaggerated third cut. That cuts inside of his frame. All it's about is speed. If your eyes are committed, hips and shoulders are committed, and you have speed to the break, there is no choice for this DB to turn his hips, right? Because there comes a point in every single route, every single release, where a DB has to turn his hips and run with you. And if he doesn't do it, then we're just going to beat him on a fade, right? If we're going to come off, and let's say this DB wants to sit to the inside, let's say he plays it well, I'm just going to come off, give him a little hesitation, and then just take off and go run a fade the next time I get a fade called, right? I'm going to make him turn his hips eventually. So that's why it's super important, fellas. These releases, how you're an unguardable receiver off the line of scrimmage, is when you're backside on a play, you're doing different things to set this up. Maybe Waddle's a couple times, he's been backside with this guy, and he's giving a little hesitation and going. Obviously, it's one-on-one, so no. But in a game, hesitate, go, take off. Make him feel your speed. Make him get over anxious to try to overcommit back over the top. Okay, this is a great example of what you guys can do on a diamond release. And now the last thing I want to touch on is when we do get a DB to commit, you better win that race back to the ball, because he's going to be speed turning. He knows he got beat. He knows he got punked on this route. So he is going to be trying his absolute hardest to go make a play on this thing. You got to win the race to the ball. I got to accelerate. I got to pump my arms. Let's go get back to this ball before that DB has a chance to react. This is a great example of a diamond release here. Diamond release is one of the best releases you guys can use if you run it correctly when you have to run a slant route versus an inside shade DB. Let's watch it again full speed. Great job taking off full speed and forcing that DB to commit to the vertical and then having to speed turn out of this break. All right, guys, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comments below. I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I always appreciate the feedback, always appreciate the things you guys have to say. So if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave those below. And also, fellas, our route running Bible, over an hour and a half's worth of specific wide receiver training content on how to improve your route running in 10 days, 49-minute long video on 20 different press releases, when to use those releases, and then obviously drills to work on each one. Very first link in the description, fellas, at a buy one, get one free value. Hope you guys could check it out. I'll see you guys next time.